Hello everybody and welcome to Dan Chalmers Tech, and I hope you're doing well. And today we're going to be catching up with news over the past week to week and a half. So it's a bit late, but I have been mega busy with work and at home, so I'm doing the update now. But in the news we've got Intel's One API, we're going to be having a look at their new CPUs, TSMC are having 7nm node issues, and AMD's got delays on their Ryzen 3000 series CPUs. So let's roll that intro and jump straight on into it. So let's talk about Intel and ray tracing first, and back in June of this year they unveiled One API. Now this is a programming module developed to simplify workloads across different architectures. We're talking CPUs, GPUs, AI engines and FPGAs. However, Nvidia's CEO did decide to throw shade towards Intel, claiming programming isn't like a PowerPoint slide. So Intel is bringing ray tracing to the market for everybody, well at least one game anyway. And that game is World of Tanks. So World of Tanks will soon enable you to use ray tracing on DX11 compatible GPUs. It will enhance the core engine in-game to ray trace shadows in very specific circumstances. So the developers Wargaming are going to use the One API rendering toolkit, but there is a caveat. It will only work on intact vehicles that were in direct sunlight. So Wargaming and Intel are going to be working very closely together to optimize World of Tanks. The process that they're going to be using is called concurrent rendering, or basically a posh word for multi-core rendering. So for instance, let's say you have an old or a slow 4-core or 6-core CPU, but a decent GPU, then using concurrent rendering will gain you noticeable performance within the game itself. So let's look at some videos that they had on the show. So up first is AMD's Athlon 200GE with built-in Vega 3 graphics. It reached an average of 91.5 FPS with concurrent rendering, and we're going to call it CT2 for ease. Without CT2, it averaged 82.7 FPS. Moving on to Intel CPUs, the i3-6100 paired with a GTX 1060. With CT2 the average was 103.1 FPS, and without CT2 it averaged 90.4 FPS. Up last is the i3-3770 paired with a GTX 1070 Ti. The average with CT2 was 148.2 FPS, and without CT2 it averaged 105.2 FPS. Now obviously these results are great, especially if you want to play obviously World of Tanks with ray tracing. But what I don't like is obviously Intel here with their CPUs paired them with quite high-end GPUs, whereas AMD got left with their built-in Vega 3 graphics. However, to be fair, the Athlon 200GE didn't do too bad, and we were still getting over 90 FPS. So sticking with Intel and their new CPUs on over at Geekbench. Up first is the i9-10900X, and yes it is a mouthful. However, the specs do follow. It's a 10-core 20-thread CPU. Now it hit 5204 single-core score, with a 39,717 multi-core score. It ran a base clock of 3.6 GHz, whilst the max clock was at 4.39 GHz. Now if you put .gb4 after the search result, you do actually bring up the entirety of its specs. If we see here, it's actually running 4.137 GHz base with a boost of 4.68 GHz. So up next is the i9-10980XE. Now this is going to be the top of the X series lineup, as 18 cores and 36 threads is the highest Intel are willing to go at present. However, on over at Geekbench, the single core score was 5,381, whilst the multi-core score was 51,514. The base clock was at 2.46 GHz with a max of 3.93 GHz. Again, putting .gb4 in the search results gives the entirety of the specs. So here we can see a base clock of 4.108 GHz, whilst it maxing out at 4.779 GHz. So moving back to Intel's claims that RFA of 1.74 to 2.09 times the performance over last generation is a little far off at the moment. The i9-10900X and the i9-9900X is about 1% in difference, so it does come then down to price. The i9-10900X should come in around $600–650 to be able to fit the claims from RFA, and also not to compete with AMD's 3950X. However, moving on to the i9-10980XE, and that should be around about $950 to $1,000 also to fit in with their claims from RFA. However, this is Intel, so they're probably going to be a lot more expensive, but we just have to wait and see when they release next month. So it looks like TSMC are under a lot of pressure for the 7nm node. In an insider report, it said their lead times have trebled, which is going to cause a 2 to 6 month delay. Now this is going to cause issues for companies like AMD, whose Ryzen 3000 series processors and NAVI GPUs are all 7nm based. We can see this starting to take effect with the Ryzen 9 3950X that was meant to release on the 30th of September, but in a statement from AMD has now been pushed back to November. Let's not forget, AMD is not the only company using TSMC. You've got Apple's iPhone 11 using their A13 Bionic chip, which is a 7nm node, And also Nvidia is tapping up TSMC for the 7nm node for the next generation series of GPUs. So photos of the 3950X have been spotted over on Reddit from one Russian user. Now this doesn't look like an engineering sample, but maybe more of a mock-up package or even potentially the retail packaging for the product. I have tried finding prices and I did find them, then they went, but if you're looking in pounds it's going to be 749, in euros it's going to be 999, and in US dollars it's going to be 1,100. So moving on to AMD, and over the past month we've had leaks of a Ryzen 5 3500. However, there is a possibility that we're going to see a new CPU, the Ryzen 5 3500X. Now this was spotted on over at the Chinese retailer JD.com, and along with the listing was some specifications. It's going to be a 6-core 6-thread CPU. It's going to come with a base clock of 3.6 GHz and a boost clock of 4.1 GHz. The cache size is going to be at 32 MB along with a TDP of 65 watts. And the Wraith Stealth cooler is also included. The 3500X is going to go head to head with Intel's i5-9400F. So in gaming performance, Intel's i5-9400F does edge out the 3500X except on Counter-Strike, which just so happens to be placed in the centre. Both CPUs were tested on a 1660 from Nvidia, pointing to the low end or entry level market. However, looking at latency of the cache, lower being better, the 3500X does have a slight advantage in most games over the 9400F. And this is probably due to the 32 MB of cache. So Intel's i5-9400F does edge out the Ryzen 5 3500X in gaming performance, but only very slightly. So it all comes down to pricing. Intel's i5-9400F at time of filming can be picked up off of Amazon for around about £133. If AMD wanted to obviously advertise this to the lower end of the market and budget builds, and obviously to compete with Intel as well, I would like to see the CPU come out around about £125 to £130 to really make it competitive. So sticking with AMD, and let's have a brief look at NAVI 12 and NAVI 14. They now have MESA 19.2 support. On a side note, MESA 3D is an open source software which implements things like Vulkan, OpenGL and other specifications of graphics APIs. Now this is the last phase before the cards are actually ready to be shipped. There are rumours of the cards being released in October, however due to the current TSMC backlog, we may not see these cards till maybe November or even Q1 of next year. At the moment no official date has been given, but once it does I will keep you updated. So in other news, Rockstar are releasing their own launcher, and yes, another launcher to play yet another game. However, with downloading Rockstar Launcher you can install and play GTA San Andreas for absolutely free. But there is a slight issue. Say you own the game on Steam and you download the launcher, you then install it and then you delete it, and then you go to Steam and click San Andreas and click play. Well, it now reverts you back to the Rockstar Launcher to download and play the game. So that is a slight issue, because obviously if you don't want the launcher you should be able to play the game that you bought on Steam, but obviously it's not letting you. So that's it all from me today. If you did like the video, then go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Please do like, comment and share, it'd be greatly appreciated. Do click on that subscribe button and hit that bell icon for more notifications from myself. If you want to follow me, I am on Facebook and I do have my own Discord server where we can hang out. That is in the YouTube banner, and like always, I shall see you in the next one.